Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. But hey guys, Sly here. I know I usually don't stream this early. As a matter of fact, I literally just woke up probably like what, an hour ago. And so I am a bit kind of jaded right now. But that being said, I just gotta be real with you guys. I had to make this stream, or at least this little snippet, just to kind of vent out a bit of my frustrations because I cannot be silent about what's been going on anymore. Because oh my god, I am actually getting really concerned about what's going to be happening where I live. So, if you guys have been watching the channel for a long time, whether it be on YouTube or Twitch, you guys are pretty familiar about the fact that I am not someone who hasn't really been the most silent when it comes to talking about politics. I'm someone who have brought it up here and there, and let's just say that I've gotten a lot of pushback from that, from a particular side. Let it be known, I'm not going to be pulling any punches with this anymore, because this is something that is not only going to be directing a lot of the people that I personally know in my life, but it's also something that I just cannot really separate from what I've got going on here anymore, because I'm just going to let it be known right now that with what happened yesterday, I think it's only going to be the tip of the iceberg on how much of a shit show the rest of this decade is going to be. I've already accepted that the 2020s is going to be a shit decade. I've already accepted that at this point. But I didn't even think it was going to be this bad either. And so because of that, I have to just straight up be real with you guys. Now, before we get into this, I think I need to specify exactly what my sort of my general political positions are. And yeah, now if you guys remember watching my old Sly Army podcast series back in 2019 and even going into 2020, I will admit I was definitely a lot more political, or at least open in those, than I was, I'd say, in the past couple of years, as far as any that's been concerned. And some might say that I definitely took a more left approach, a more socialist, dare people call, approach. I have not changed since then. I'm just gonna be frank right now. Like, pretty much ever since I was in high school, since I was a sophomore in high school, and keep in mind, we're talking like 8 to 10 years from this point now, I have kept my position of being considered a straight up socialist, and I still stand by that. And I know that statement alone is already going to probably get me a lot of unfollows and unsubscribes, but at this point, I'm just going to specify right now, if you dislike that position, then, I mean, I'm not necessarily going to judge you, but at least hear me out when it comes to this. So, and that might surprise a lot of people, considering that I'm someone who typically plays a lot of military-based video games, a lot of first-person shooters, a lot of strategy games. But let me just point this out right now. Even though I do like... Actually, let me get out some of the more popular games I've played in the past. Yeah, like, even though I am definitely someone who does like, you know, the Call of Duty game, or yeah, I like the Call of Duty games. I like God damn it. Yeah, I like the Call of Duty games. I like Tom Clancy games, and I do like Battlefield games. I'm just gonna be real with you guys. Even though I like these types of games, these are just straight up conservative propaganda. at least in their campaigns. I mean, especially Black Ops 2 in particular. I actually replayed this a few weeks back in a Discord call with a few of my friends. And keep in mind, I did stream this game back in 2022. Even then, I thought this game was already pretty dated in a lot of ways. But oh my god, not only has the technology predictions have gotten worse since this game actually takes place as of this recording, but also it's just straight up just anti-socialist propaganda. Just to be frank with you guys, that doesn't necessarily mean I dislike Call of Duty or like dislike my Battlefields, but I just gotta be real with you guys. This is just straight up just military conservative propaganda, whether you want to admit it or not. And I've also got another red pill to tell you guys that a lot of the media that a lot of like more right-wing people like, whether it be Warhammer or Warhammer, Helldivers, BioShock, Halo. I gotta be real with you guys, those are definitely more left-leaning games as far as their messaging. I mean, Halo, you're literally going up against a theocratic autocracy in that. And I mean, Warhammer 40k and Helldivers are just straight up parodies on how conservatives view the world. And so I'm just laying that out there right now because I don't want anyone getting the wrong impression. So now, with all of that out of the way, I gotta be real with you guys. Considering that what happened yesterday, if you guys don't know what happened yesterday, well, what we call here the Dorito Man, the Cheeto Man, also known as, Donald J. Trump. He got inaugurated into office. He did get the majority vote back in November, which still makes me cringe inside. And he basically just went on, an executive order spree throughout pretty much half of yesterday. And keep in mind, that is more than literally any other president has done in their first day ever. And some of the shit that he's signed off has made me extremely fucking terrified. And it's already made a few of my other friends of the channel terrified as well. Like, they've been going on just a full-on spree when it comes to this shit. So, and by the way, before I go into these, I just want to specify right now, these have slightly biased, these websites have slightly biased opinions, but they do have factual reporting. Like, I use this website called Media Bias Fact Checker to make sure that I am getting the closest when it comes to accurate reporting. These are both reliable, so if anyone's gonna fucking go into chat and be like, oh, that's fucking propaganda, it's factual reporting down here, motherfucker. But anyways, so as far as I'm concerned, these are reliable. But anyways, so yes, Trump yesterday, on day one, he signed, I think about 30 or 40 different executive orders. And we're not going to go into the specifics of every single one of them because a lot of them are just kind of meaningless fluff pieces. But we are going to be talking about some of the major ones that have me concerned about what's going to happen in the future. And I think it's pretty bad if you guys have any semblance of just caring about the world. So, first of all, the first major one we've got here. Actually, okay, I think Axios has it laid out a bit better, to be fair. So, first of all, yesterday, and keep in mind, a lot of these are immigration-based, which that's how they get you, by the way, is if there's a problem going on in the country, they typically use immigrants as the main issue, even though immigrants actually help the country, but whatever, that's besides the point. But anyways, so first of all, and again, this is the tip of the iceberg. So first of all, a lot of the executive orders had to do with the border. So first of all, he declared a national emergency on the U.S.-Mexico border, which, if anyone has any sort of semblance of what's going on there, basically for the past 20-ish years, probably longer than that, but at least from what I remember, there's been a huge influx of Hispanic immigrants from Latin America that have been going up to the United States, mostly due to either poor living conditions or dealing with issues with cartel members, or just generally wanting better quality of living for a lot of people. And considering that the US is one of the most rich and prosperous countries, at least for now, that's seen as something as a bit of a beacon of hope. But during that entire time, let's just be real here, there's been a lot of complications as far as dealing with border protections. And, well, Trump is pretty much he's pretty much, anti having immigrants in the country. And so he, not only did he declare a national emergency on the U.S.-Mexico border, which includes which includes sending in the National Guard there, which I don't even think I need to tell you that that's pretty fucked up on its own. But he also designated, quote, certain international cartels and organizations as foreign terrorist organizations. And he invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, a law that is literally 200 fucking years old that nobody probably even knows about, to designate them that. Which, on paper, that might sound like, oh, well, they're cartel members. They're, they should be dealt with. They're the cause of all that. Yeah, but do you know what that entails? A lot of these cartel members are in a lot of countries, like in Mexico, or Honduras, or El Salvador, or Guatemala. And you can't really just send in special forces to those countries, because if you send if anyone knows about the history of Afghanistan, you guys should know that that was a huge fuck up on the US's part, in that we just invaded an entire foreign nation just to combat terror, and that war lasted for literally 20 fucking years. That is longer than some of the people that I've known that have been alive. And keep in mind, that's longer than Vietnam. Because our involvement in Vietnam was only about 10 years at most. And so they're not actually doing this to try to stop cartel members. They just want to basically just want to start using this to justify any sort of fucking potential regime change they want to do in Mexico, which we'll get to that in a little bit, because that's a completely other fucking situation. So, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that's already pretty bad. But it gets worse. So, he did that. He also suspended any sort of refugee programs, because pretty much there used to be a bit of a process where if you were trying to get into the country, you had to do a bunch of signings and stuff like that. Unfortunately, because of both the Obama and the Trump's first administration, and even Biden's administration, they've made it even longer for someone to even be applicable. It's basically the modern day equivalent of what happened on Ellis Island, which a lot of people were turned down from that. So it's almost as if history's repeating itself in a lot of ways. But basically, they're basically halting it for the next 90 days, 89 days if you're counting yesterday. And so basically just denying a lot of people access. And He also has ordered Homeland Security to quote-unquote terminate all categorical parole programs, including refugees from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela. I'm pretty sure Mexico, Honduras, all those other countries I mentioned are probably on there as well. Yeah, he also signed a quote-unquote remain in Mexico policy, which is basically them sending out asylum, like they're basically pushing out anyone who, by the way, was already waiting inside of the country to get into the country legally, and just pushing them out. That's basically what that policy is. So, even if you were trying to get into the country, well, fuck you, basically, is what the government is saying. So much for having things done legally, right? Because I know that was a big point that every motherfucker like was trying to push, is that I want immigrants legally done in the country. Well, they can't even do that. So those people probably look very fucking smart. Or if they're grifters, which if that's the case, then you're a fucking piece of shit. But that's besides the point. Oh, also, you know how in the US, okay, this is going away from like border stuff. This is now just going into everything else. So you know how in the US, or literally in like most countries, right, that if you're born in that country, you have natural citizenship, right? That's been a thing for hundreds of years. That's just been kind of just a natural right that a lot of people have had. Well, that's not a thing anymore. If you were born yesterday, from this point onwards, you are no longer a citizen of the United States. Like, you're basically not classified as one. Which, I don't even think I need to tell you how fucked up that is. And I'm pretty, like, that one is certainly one that a lot of people are getting pissed about. And I can guarantee you that most of the people here who are watching this, you guys are probably upset about that too, because, again, that's something that has been a thing, and that basically just means that I'm sorry, this, you can probably tell, I was on a fucking tirade yesterday, you can probably already fucking tell. But, so yeah, I'm getting distracted, but you get the point, is, this is pretty fucked up. And there's already a bunch of legal challenges, like, there's already a bunch of people who are trying to go against this, because they didn't even announce this in the Project 2025 thing. The fact that they, like, Trump just straight up did this, which I didn't even fucking know that this was gonna, like, go through, really just showcases that they don't want to actually, they don't actually give a shit about, they're not actually pro-life. They just want to control people. But I digress. Let's continue on with a lot of the policies. Obviously, I'm not going to go into the specifics. If you want to, like, go, like, look into this, read this for yourself. I'm just giving a bit of a broad stroke, because, yeah. He also declared a national emergency on energy, but he's doing it in literally the most fucked up way possible, including the fact that he just opened up the ability for a lot of places in northern Alaska, which are protected land, by the way, either by national parks or just straight up federal land that is considered natural wildlife. Oil companies can now drill up there. So literally Fallout shit, by the way. Like, but unironically. Yeah, I have a cousin up in Alaska, and I'm pretty sure that she is in tears right now because of that. Because she moved up there in Alaska specifically because she wanted, like, not just because she, like, likes being with the people over there, but also because of the natural beauty up there. That's gonna be fucked now. Not to mention that we're just still using fossil fuels, which we should have been off decades ago, and may or may not have helped contribute to what's going on in California, but I'll get to that in a little bit. He also paused offshore wind lease in feral waters. Basically, it's just shutting down any sort of... It's basically just shutting down off of any sort of wind power that's done, like, off of U.S. shore, which is pretty fucked up in a lot of ways. Which, speaking of other climate things, he pulled out of the Paris Climate Treaty again, which, for those who don't know, is basically an international collective. It's basically an international treaty by most countries in the world, which obviously the U.S. is unfortunately one of those countries that's not in it now, where it's basically the idea of moving away from fossil fuels and moving towards more reliable green energy, such as wind power, solar power, hydropower, even some nuclear energy options. And basically, it's basically like a treaty to, at least on paper, try to reduce the effects of stuff like climate change. And he just straight up pulled out of that. Which, by the way, this was originally formed, I think, in 2015. We backed out of it during his first presidency in 2017. And then Biden got it back in 2021. But now we're pulling back out of it again. So... I don't even think I need to go into how fucking stupid that is. Oh yeah, he also revoked Biden's executive order on trying to get electric car vehicles in the US by like to 50%. So that's, yeah. Also, and I've even pointed this out last year in my fucking Caspian Game Awards show. This next point. So basically, he's been targeting against quote unquote DEI, as well as stuff involving trans people in America. So he established a law, a policy that the U.S. government can only recognize someone who is male or female. So if you're someone who was originally male but then transitioned to female, well, too bad, you're a male, according to this. And that's not the only thing that they went up against, as far as... which, that's already fucked up as it is. But he also basically banned trans people from serving in the military. As well as, and this, I'm so fucking sick and tired of these idiots using this fucking word, because it genuinely pisses me off. They're going up again, they're basically trying to shut down anything that they could consider quote-unquote woke that's in government, that's in any sort of government policy. Which, if you guys know me, you guys should know that that is the most idiotic fucking thing ever, because these motherfuckers can't even fucking define the word woke. Which, by the way, God, I'm sorry. I fucking hate that word. Not because of its origins, because it was Black American slang. That's not me saying it. Go look it up yourselves. That unfortunately got appropriated by fucking white conservative, like, idiots online. So, And yeah, it looks like for the next 60 days they're trying to crack down on any sort of government like any sort of diversity, equity, inclusion benefits and initiatives within by the end of like what looks like March. Which I don't, by the way, I don't even know how you define that. Cuz they just see anything as woke as anything that's like basically anything that's not a white American. I mean, you see this shit all the fucking time with video games. I mean, how many times have you seen like either a movie or a video game get called woke online? It's just a buzz phrase. It doesn't actually mean anything anymore. So, like, Goldie's mentioned this before, but it's like he's pretty much coined the fact that it's just a word that's lost all meaning. And that's extremely fucking sad. But anyways. So yeah, no, trans people, at least according to the United States, they don't exist. They aren't actually real people. And they aren't allowed to engage in government. That's basically what this is saying. And, well, I'm just gonna straight up say, like, you're actually a massive fucking piece of shit if you actually believe in any of that sort of stuff. But I digress. What else did this fucking Dorito fucking say? Oh yeah, okay, this one pissed Goldie off so fucking much because this one hit home for him. Basically, he signed another executive order in which anyone who was a federal employee who was working at home, you are no longer allowed to work at home. As a matter of fact, you will be fired from your position if you still work at home. No exceptions. Which, that affects Goldie because his relatives literally live, like, the closest to a government job that, or like a government building that they do, it's literally an hour away from where they live. Why are you forcing people, like, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. This is the same motherfucker who tried to say that COVID was a fucking hoax and ended up killing 1 million Americans as a result. So, I shouldn't be surprised. So, he also reaffirmed his Schedule F executive order, which basically means that if there's any sort of dissent within government against Trump, they're able to just fire them on the spot. So basically, you can't criticize our God Emperor Donald Trump, is basically what this is saying. But I'm not even finished with any of this, but you guys should at least be seeing what I'm trying to go here, right? And by the way, I've already went on a whole fucking tirade on Instagram and Blue Sky at this point about this shit, but I'll get to the end of that at, like, whenever it's this. But anyways, let's continue. So he also is pardoning a lot of the January 6th pardon, he's also going to be pardoning a lot of the people on January 6th, which I knew he was going to do this, but basically it's legitimizing the fact that they can, if you want to overthrow the government into a fascist regime, then you can do that because it's okay. But God forsake that you say anything that's like left of center right. You're a communist. You're a socialist. You should be fired. You should be arrested. You should be shot. God forbid if you're even a centrist. God forbid if you're a centrist. But if you want to fly a Confederate flag in the U.S. Capitol, if you want to, like, threatened to murder, AOC and literally any other Democrat, that's okay. That's okay. That's basically the mindset that they're breeding with this alone. And they already did this with that fucking terrorist back in 2020 who shot those two guys during the George Floyd protests. I'm not gonna fucking mention his name, and he's a fucking terrorist. I'm not gonna stand by that. He also pulled out of the World Health Organization, which is basically the international organization that makes sure that they monitor the health and well-being of everyone across the world, at least as much as they can. And I shouldn't even tell you that that is going to fuck up our healthcare even more than it already has been. And then, yeah, these are just the miscellaneous ones. So, he's allowing government agencies, to basically abide by full free speech, and which I know that a lot of people are interpreting that like, oh, he's legitimizing like free speech, something that like the left woke mob was trying to go up against. Okay, but like, what that entails? That's basically saying that that's basically entailing that if you want to just straight up say the N-word to black people, if you just want to straight up say the C-word to Asian Americans, if you just want to straight up, do direct threats of violence, that's basically legal now. So, hey, ironically enough, the Human Freedom Index is just slowly declining here in the country, because there's going to be a lot more hate crimes now, and I wouldn't be surprised if there already have been in the past 24 hours. So, he's also ordering a review of different trade practices and agreements, specifically with China, Mexico, and Canada, because one of his biggest things was that he wanted to push a lot of tariffs, which I don't even think you guys know what a tariff is. Basically a tariff is a tax on imports that are coming in to the US on the country that they're trading with. But the problem is that because of that, it makes it to where that item is more expensive. So he got a lot of pushback from that because, well, that's only just going to make more domestic product here a lot more expensive than it should be. So that's always fun. He's also leaning into the whole Hunter Biden thing by revoking a lot of the clearances from a lot of the people who are going up against that. It's a whole fucking shit show thing. He established the Department of Government Efficiency, which, what I interpret, is basically just going to be their propaganda machine. So, literally what the Nazis did back in the 1930s. He suspended the TikTok ban, at least for the next 75 days. But here's the thing about that. I mean, this was something that was extremely infuriating with me just by itself. Because last year, they were really trying to push for the idea of banning TikTok. And the hearings on TikTok were the most cringiest shit ever. Just blatant racism, by the way. And I'm not even just saying that as hyperbole. It was literally them being racist against Asian people. I don't even fucking remember the guy who did the questioning. But whatever. Anyways, they're originally going to ban TikTok, which I still stand by is still a fucked up idea. You should never ban a single thing of social media ever. You should because it's considered the modern public square. If you ban the public square, you're banning free speech, and by definition, that goes against the First Amendment. So they're banning the platforms that allow people to express themselves, but it's okay to be racist, and it's okay to commit hate crimes. Okay. So that was fucked up. But here's the thing that was the most fucked up thing about that. So if you guys have seen any of my YouTube shorts, you guys should be aware that I used to have a TikTok account. I occasionally just kind of did like top 10 lists on there. It wasn't really anything that I took too seriously, but it was kind of a fun little thing that I did last year in 2023. Well, they did go on with the ban. But the most fucked up thing about this shit, and let me see if I can find a picture of it, because like, yeah, like, here's the most fucked up about that whole like TikTok ban thing, is that they did end up revoking the ban, but at the cost of this fucking message. Thanks for your patience and support. As a result of President Trump's efforts, TikTok is back in the US. We can continue to create, share, and discover all the things you love on TikTok. They literally thanked that fucking cheese puff. Before he was president, by the way. Like, before he got back into office. Like, a day before. And, like, undid the ban. So, if I'm gonna be honest, that's even more fucked up than even just straight up banning it. Because if they would have banned it, that still would have been fucked up. But at least they would have been consistent on that. But the fact that they revoked it, like, they revoked the ban, and they specifically name dropped Donald Trump. When I saw this message, my jaw fucking dropped. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? This man fucking paid off the CEO of TikTok. Or the other way around. Whatever the fucking deal was. So that they can do this shit. If you thought Twitter was already going to be if you thought Twitter turned into a huge propaganda machine, this thing is going to become one even worse. And, well, as a result, I deleted my TikTok account because of that. Because, like, in my heart, it did die on Sunday. So, yeah. What else did he do? Declaring that federal buildings should respect regional, traditional, and classical architectural heritage to beautify public spaces in a novel of the United States. I mean, architecture is pretty subjective, so if he's gonna just straight up start making them look like ugly ass concrete buildings, then I wouldn't really call that, you know, classical. But you know how it goes. So, I'm pretty sure there's a few other ones that they didn't cover that I remember seeing on here. But you guys get the general point. Is that this is a fucking disaster on a national scale. And this is going to set the precedent for the next 4 years. If this is all he's done on day one, imagine what he's going to be doing in the rest of this year. Or hell, next 3 years after that. He's quite literally starting to strip away human rights as we speak. He's stripped away trans rights, at least on the government level, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he's going to do it on the national level. Which, again, I'm just going to specify right now, trans people are human people. They are actually as human as you and me. My friend Saimori is massive friends with people who are trans. And hell, last month, I streamed with someone who was trans. Why? Because I don't judge them based off of their sexual orientation. I judge them based off of whether or not they're a good or bad person. And since Saimori trusts them, I trust them as well. I don't fucking give a shit if you're someone who is, like, who was originally one gender and who wasn't. As a matter of fact, or at least in the sense of, like, I don't, like, that to me doesn't make me define who you are. And so the fact that they're just straight up going on with, like, a straight up trans ban on government jobs and the military, I mean, let me, I talked about this with, Big Joseph Kai last night. And I think this picture is really, like, it's really a bit of a grim reality that unfortunately we are facing here. This is called the 10 stages of genocide. And so, basically, it's a series of patterns that people have seen when it comes to pretty much any single sort of genocide. And by the way, I am very aware that me talking about this is going to get YouTube not prioritize this on the algorithm. Not that any of my content was anyways, but they're gonna try to bury this stream as much as they can. I'm not gonna fucking stop as much as I can. I'm gonna be vocal about this. But anyways, it's a series of patterns that people have noticed when it comes to many of the genocides that have happened in human history, whether it be the Holocaust, whether it be the Armenian genocide, the Rwanda genocide, the Holodomor. Like, these are common patterns that people have been doing. So, and as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to trans people, we might be at stage 6. So you can read all the ones for yourselves, but basically it goes by classification, which basically means, you know, you classify a group of people like this. Symbolism, so you mark a symbol with them, in this case the trans flag. Discrimination, which, I mean, that's been going on for a long time when it comes to trans people, unfortunately. Dehumanization, which we've seen a lot. Organization, which we've already seen incidents of mass shootings against trans people happen, which mass shootings in this country, that's a whole other fucking topic. But in recent years, we've been seeing a lot of hate crimes against trans people. And we're at stage 6 because we've been hearing so much. Like, again, we see this all the fucking time. Like, on YouTube, I see this on my feed all the fucking time, even though I try to get these motherfuckers off my fucking feed, where I always see someone call whatever type of shit woke. And it's like, dude, you're literally feeding into this shit, man. And again, that's even just for trans people. If we also want to talk about Hispanic people, oh my god, I think we're at stage 7 for that shit. Because what Trump is trying to do on the border, oh my god. Even hours before he was inaugurated, there were pictures of the border with riot patrol. Like, on El Paso. Hold on, let me look at the pictures. Was this as of yesterday? No, that was 2009. El Paso border 2025. God damn it, where's the fucking pictures? Okay, this is like as good of a picture as I can get. They must have taken down the article, but like there was an article that I saw yesterday where they had Border Patrol with a fucking riot team, like a SWAT team down at like the El Paso border. Like in Texas. So, and well, and that's even just ignoring the fact that we basically just have concentration camps on the border in Texas and in New Mexico. I didn't even want to fucking bring up that shit, but, and I know people are like, oh, those aren't concentration camps. Those are just holdout places. They're concentration camps. We did that same shit to Asian Americans back in the 1940s. Don't even fucking like debate me on that. I will fucking fight to the death on that shit. But you get the point. Is we're living in some pretty fucking dark times. And that's not even going into the fact that like they're just straight up removing a lot of this shit that we've seen at least the Biden administration try to do. And I have my criticisms of Biden, like, just period. His response on Gaza was fucking horrible. And just the fact that he just, for much of his presidency, he just sat on his ass, not doing anything, just sitting there like a fucking, grumpy old ass man. Really just kind of didn't help a lot of things. That being said, though, we're in some pretty fucking dark times, especially, like I said, with what's going on with the environment. Because, again, let me remind you that my home state, California, is literally on fucking fire right now. Like, holy shit. I mean, just look at these pictures. This was just a few weeks ago. Yeah, the Palisades is completely gone now. And they're still trying to contain the fires, but I don't know. I guess it's just... And honestly, this is, like... We're seeing the results of climate change right now. And... keep in mind, I was just there this past October as well. Like... I missed, like, in a lot of ways, like, yeah, California, LA, it had its problems. Traffic on the interstates fucking sucked. Unfortunately, there are, like, some places that did have high crime. But that's still my home at the end of the day. And to see motherfuckers, praise the fact that California is literally on fire right now. And also praise the fact that we're just going to be, drilling more oil and destroying the natural habitat of, many different animals up in Alaska. I'm sorry, and I've gotten shit for this already, but it just really showcases that Americans are really fucking stupid. And we really do live in an education crisis. We don't live in we do live in an energy crisis, but not for oil. For wind, for solar panels, for hydropower. We're living in that type of energy emergency. Not an oil one. As a matter of fact, I'm apathetic about, if, actually, I'm not going to fucking say that, because I don't want to be deplatformed already. But you guys get my point. At this rate, we're just slowly creeping towards more to fascism. If we have multiple instances of the 10 stages of genocide pattern being showcased within multiple different groups, and that we're seeing the environment getting destroyed, and them just thinking it's a good idea to use more fossil fuels. And even just the fact that we're seeing just straight up, like, policies that if you dare to criticize our God Emperor Trump, you will be fired. How do people not see the fucking parallels to Nazi Germany back in the 30s and 40s? And that's not even getting into the fact that Elon Musk literally did a fucking Sig Heil, like, during the fucking speech. Which I know he did that because he thought it was funny, but honestly, it's just cringe, but also just emblematic about the fact that we are living in really shit times. And I'm just gonna straight up say this right now. Trump is easily in the top 5 worst presidents in the US history. He might be slowly creeping towards number 1. He's already worse than Bush in my opinion. And that's saying a lot because Bush was fucking terrible too. But like his first presidency should have already been a warning sign. Because again, his whole border wall policy, which by the way, he's building up the border wall again, which that shouldn't surprise anyone. Like his border wall policy, his policies just in general against Hispanics and Muslims, his sympathetic causes to a lot of alt-right and far-right movements, including what happened in Charlottesville back in 2017. His response to COVID, which he initially made it out as if it was a hoax, but then guess what? His policies ended up killing 1 million Americans. Which no one points that out, by the way. I'm the only one who's pointing that out, is that his response to COVID resulted in the deaths of over 1 million Americans. How the fuck do not people, like, put 2 and 2 together like that? And that's not even getting into everything else that he's done, including the 3 Supreme Court justices that he put in, which they, in turn, got rid of abortion on the national level. They got rid of any sort of, like, they tried to get rid of any sort of idea of having any sort of student debt relief. His administration literally assassinated an Iranian general who was not threatening us. We were threatening them. And we almost went to World War III. I did a whole fucking... I reacted live 5 fucking years ago whenever that shit happened. His response to the George Floyd protests, in which he just sent in riot police. And, well, the fact that he propped up a fucking terrorist who shot multiple people during one of those protests. Like, that was just his first administration. Why the fuck are there still people defending this motherfucker? Well, I already answered that earlier for you guys. It's because, unfortunately, we have a bit of an education crisis, where there's people who genuinely think that Canada is a part of the United States, and that Alaska is its own country. I am not joking when I say that. I remember back in, like, my junior year of high school, and despite being in geography classes with these same kids, there was literally some motherfuckers who genuinely thought that Canada was a part of the United States. God, I fucking hate this country, dude. So yeah, I had to I had to just straight up just warn everyone on here. And like I said, I am well aware that there might be people on here who probably don't even really give a shit. And hell, I probably already lost a fucking follower or two from this. I would not be surprised. But like at this point, people seriously need to wake the fuck up and realize that we are moving towards like literal like far right. We're like autocracy at this point. We're already in oligarchy at this point. I'm not even surprised. We're not even a real democracy anymore. But slowly but surely, we are just creeping ourselves more towards in a far right authoritarian dictatorship. The only reason why we're not a dictatorship yet is that they haven't signed they haven't signed off on the like some law removing limited terms for presidents. Because once that shit gets down, oh my god, I am gonna fucking... But you get my point. So I could not be silent about this shit anymore. I'm someone who is extremely pro human rights, and I'm someone who's extremely pro democracy, at least on like the workforce level and just the national level in general. I mean, I've already said I am owning up to the fact that I am a socialist, like unironically. Like I am someone who does have those beliefs. But at the same time, I'm still someone who does recognize that democracy is something that is beneficial for everyone. And we're getting so close to just straight up losing that. And I cannot stress to you guys enough that we are living in an era where we are seeing more and more of our rights being stripped away. So, and unfortunately, I feel like people have just kind of accepted that reality and not pushing against that. And so I'm just going to declare this right now that I am going to be more vocal about politics. And if people don't like that, well then I hate to break it to you guys, but you guys are like I do genuinely admire people who just want to like ignore that shit, because hell, 2023 I ignored that shit quite a bit up until Gaza. And that did kind of help me, but at the same time we're seeing a lot of patterns that are not only concerning me, but millions of other people as well. So, suffice to say, I'm not going to be tolerant of any sort of hate speech or any sort of weird, ideas being quote-unquote woke. So, we're going to be pro-trans, we're going to be pro-LGBTQ in general. Not that we haven't been already, but I am just affirming that right now. We're going to be pro just any sort of racial background, whether you're black, Hispanic, Asian American, Middle Eastern. That shit doesn't matter to me. You are human at the end of the day. And I'm not going to let some fucking, straight up fascist motherfuckers take your rights away from that. And so, but yeah, I had to just make this a stream. I will be streaming I will be doing a normal stream tonight. I'm probably not going to be playing Battlefield because last Sunday was a fucking disaster. I'll see if I can do something else with some other people. But yeah, either way, I'll see you guys then. And Nazi